As promised, Jay has brought his Fraggle Rock collection. This is incredible. I know you haven't been collecting this stuff nearly as long as your like strawberry shortcake stuff, but how long have you actually been getting all this stuff?
Okay, well, actually, this one right here goes right back to when Fraggle Rock was on the air. I saw this exact copy of this exact Fraggle in a dump bin in a department store in Rostern. It was all I wanted for Christmas, and my mother made it happen. So I would say this goes back to maybe like 1984, 85,
Right.
somewhere in there. So not as aggressively as my other collections, but very much since the beginning.
It's awesome. And Red and the rest of the crew, how long did it take you to get everybody else?
Well, most of these are from my childhood. Boober came a couple months later for my birthday. Red was one that I bought a little bit down the road, and Wembley was actually my brother's from that era and kind of found his way over to me. Gobo is the only one I bought as an adult collector, and I've had him for maybe about 15 years, something like that.
They're in a really good shape, and like I always liked that they looked lived in, you know, like because they're real living puppets.
Right, like, yeah, they're made out of felt and fabric, but they have personality, they have characters, they have character traits, and that comes through.
Okay, tell me about that button that you have on.
Right. Well, after Fraggle Rock was actually no longer on the air, it kind of still had a merchandise presence off and on for quite a long time afterwards. And in 1988, McDonald's had a Happy Meal promotion where for 49 cents with the purchase of food, you could buy Fraggles in cars. And I see that you've brought yours here to show people today.
Did.
I was still a little bit obsessed with Fraggle Rock, and I asked the woman who was wearing this in the restaurant how I could get one, and she took it off and handed it to me. So this is one of my treasured possessions right here.
I love it when nerds share. It's a
Right?
beautiful, heartwarming thing. Awesome. What about some of these other things?
Well, one of the big things that was a merchandise presence in the 80s for Fraggle Rock was books, and there was a huge, huge assortment of them. These are all coloring books from my childhood. These are various storybooks that were available, and this is just a tiny, tiny representation. There were easily over 40 different books available for Fraggle Rock, and I've managed to collect most of them over the years. This is just a nice little selection of them. Couple of them here. These two here I actually bought at the bookstore in Rostern, where I lived at the time. They showed up in the bookstore, and I saved whatever quarters I could get my hands on until I could get the $2.50 each to purchase them. And then this here, this is something I got as an adult collector, but there were puzzles, there were games, all the stuff you would expect from licensing
Right.
in the 80s.
But like Fraggles didn't have a lot.
No, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't. Like at the time, it maybe seemed like there was a lot out there, but when you think about how some other brands are merchandised, like Star Wars or like My Little Pony or like Strawberry Shortcake, Fraggle Rock collectibles are actually a fairly finite little area of collectibles. They've popped up every few years in new iterations, but really there aren't hundreds and hundreds of things out there the way there are for other things.
Yeah, like the Muppets.
Yes.
You find tons of stuff.
Right.
But this is a little more niche.
It is, and the really interesting thing about that is Fraggle Rock was actually kind of Jim Henson's magnum opus. Like he considered it his crowning achievement. And for the record, so do I. Like I'm a big Henson geek, and I consider Fraggle Rock a truly remarkable achievement in children's entertainment.
I couldn't agree more, and it's amazing. Tell me about this ultimate visual history, because those books don't come along every day, and they're like a treasure.
Yeah, these are really good. I'm just going to hand you this
Yeah.
for a second so I can talk. So this came out a few years ago for one of the anniversaries, and of course I was obsessed, even though this was the equivalent of some utility payments. It's an absolutely wonderful resource. There's lots of great artwork in here, like concept art from when Jim Henson was working, early versions of
The
stuff.
doozers.
I love nothing more than pull out things
right.
and little stuff like this. So this is a really, really wonderful book. And if you are a fan of Jim Henson or of Fraggle Rock or just of pop culture, this is a brilliant, brilliant thing to have in your collection.
Yeah, I found generally that most of the coffee table style book of Jim Henson or any of like the children's television workshop stuff, they're really well done. They're good histories.
Yeah, they are. It's like everybody who's been associated with projects that involve iterations of the Muppets really seems to care about what they're doing. They put their heart and their soul into it, and it does come through.
They do. Who's your favorite?
Favorite has always been Moki. She was the one I related to the most. She was the sensitive one, the artistic one, the one who overthought things a little bit, although they all did that. But she really would take things to weird extremes. And Moki was the one that was always kind of my spirit Fraggle.
Yeah, she's very special. That is awesome. And please tell me about this.
Well, this was actually a cross promotion that they did with General Mills for a little while, and again, after Fraggle Rock was kind of maybe starting to wind down a bit. I think it might still have been on the air when this happened, but it was kind of something that wasn't quite as present in the consciousness. They did a promotion where you could get stickers in Cheerios boxes, and most of them were the size of like trading cards, but they were really pushing that very lucky individuals would find a giant Junior Gorg sticker in the cereal box, and sure enough, one time I opened a Cheerios box and there it was in between the box and the bag.
The Gorgs and the trash pile used to freak me out a little bit, but I mean they're part of the mythos, so you got to take it part and parcel.
They are, yeah. They speak to the part of us trying to get on in the world where we have to interact with people that we'd maybe rather not interact with, and they did that really well through the Gorgs.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you so much for bringing in these artifacts because they're precious and they mean something very special to me because I love the show. I love anything Jim Henson. The man was a genius and we lost him way too soon.
We really did, and it's really special that we have this stuff so that we can keep it alive.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing today.
You're very welcome.
Down at Fraggle Rock,